happiness precedes effectiveness or productivity. And just to note on productivity, there's two things there, right? So you've got effectiveness and you've got efficiency. A lot of people focus on efficiencies. So imagine you've got a well over one side, you've got a well over the other side. And I say, right, I've got this. You need to take the water from that well and you need to put it into that well. Now, what you could do is you could get two buckets. You could do it really fast. You get two buckets, right? You're being really efficient. And then the buckets have both got holes in the bottom. So you get to the other side, you pour a little bit of water out, there's hardly anything coming. Now, what would be the most effective way? Well, I'm not going to use buckets, right? I'm going to get one of those industrial hose pipe things that can soak up all the water in one go, and then I'm going to dump it in the other one. That's the most effective way to do it. So one of our core values is about being effectiveness, right? Not efficiency, because efficiency is a load of crap.
Hey everybody, Tamara here with another awesome interview for you. This time we're going across the pond to the UK to interview my good friend, Paul Ace. Now, here's the thing that I want you to know about Paul Ace. He is on the forefront of this new business method called conversational commerce. You might have heard it percolating around. This guy is the expert. The reason I think you should know about this is, number one, I think it's going to change the game of business, how we think about how we communicate with our customers, our clients, the marketplace, even actually made me think differently about communicating with my team. Also, it's going to change the face of business. It kind of brings together this human element with this automated element in a new way. Paul's also an exceptional leader and runs a fantastic team. So we dig into how he keeps his team inspired, how he leverages the diversity of thinking on his team, the difference between efficiency and efficacy, and how he says efficiency is crap. So he'll tell you more about that. Fantastic interview. All right, before we dig in, I want to tell you about one of my all-time favorite resources out there. I know you've heard me talk about it before, but I cannot get enough of it. And that is Focus at Will. This is music scientifically proven to unlock your creativity, get you to be productive and focused. It's an app, it's a website, you subscribe to it. I've been subscribing for years. And I'll tell you what, I'm always surprised. I don't know why, but every time I turn it on and have it on the background while I'm working, I just get into the zone. I get into that state of flow. And you and I both know that state of flow is so important. That state of flow is where everything comes together. Did you know, by the way, that when you're in that state of flow, not only does kind of time disappear and the world around you disappear, and you're kind of everything is intensely focused on one thing, also you're more innovative because research has shown that your mind not only makes close-in connections, it actually makes more further out connections as well. How cool is that? So instead of making it hard getting into the zone, instead of making being productive and focused hard, how about you make it easy for yourself? Focus at Will. I'll put the link in the show notes. All right, let's get back to Paul and his brilliance around amplifying your success. Hey, Paul, it's so good to see you. So welcome to the show.
Great to be on the show tomorrow, and looking forward to giving insight as well to your audience.
So for those of you who don't know, I was on Paul's podcast recently. I don't know, that was a couple of weeks ago now. So you'll probably feel like, do these two know each other? And the answer is kind of yes, because we've talked a few times at this point. So I'm excited to have Paul on. So I want to start, Paul, with a question about what is this thing called conversational commerce that you are at the forefront of? It's a new term for a lot of us, but I think it is changing the game for business.
Yeah, so a lot of people go, oh, conversational commerce is like things like chatbots and stuff like that, right? And that's potentially a piece of it, but it's about the way that we communicate. So if you look back in early 2000s, when people were talking about this thing called e-com, and it was like, oh, what's this electronic commerce that people are talking about, right? We just call it C-com because we know that's what people are going to call it soon, because people get lazy and shit and everything.
Right.
So it's about creating a conversational experience for the customer on the customer journey. So remembering that every single customer is a human being heart, rather than like, oh, it's just an automated lead that's come in. Oh, we've got a new lead. It's a new human that has come into your world that you need to nurture through the process. So we leverage technology and automations, and at the same time look at the human psychology of what's going on to be able to marry those two things together, to actually have conversations with the customers and increase conversions at the same time, whilst enhancing the customer journey by using this conversational commerce experience.
So let me dig in and make sure I totally get it, and I want our listeners to really hear it too. My initial thought is it's like saying, "Hey, Paul," versus "Hello, Mr. Paul," right? Or "Hello, Mr. Ace," I guess is what I'd say, which is very formal versus conversational, but it's more than that. So will you give me some examples of what this looks like in real life so we can wrap our heads around it?
Sure, yeah, and it's the same thing when anyone first hears it, they're kind of like, okay, cool, let me just process that. And one of the first things that we do a lot of the time is like our "what went wrong" email. So a lot of people, what does an abandoned cart email look like? You've gone and bought something online, or you've gone to buy something, you've left the checkout, and then you get this email saying you've left items in your cart. And then they've just got like the picture of the thing, and it's like, get a 10% off coupon when you go and get it today, right? And there's no personality there. There's no actual building of rapport, and there's no actually finding out what went wrong. So what we do is, phrase it like, what would you do if you're actually having a conversation with someone? So that means, like, if I was having a conversation with someone, it was like, hey, I noticed you started buying, whatever the product is. I noticed you started buying the product, it didn't finish. I just wondered, did something go wrong or something break? Just let me know, I'll get it fixed ASAP. Right? No kind of hard sell. No, go and finish your checkout now. Occasionally we put in, by the way, if you lost the link, here it is. And sometimes they even put BTW, depending on the audience as well. So you put those colloquial things in, like you'd speak to someone normally, rather than, hey, I'm speaking on an autoresponder, I'm speaking on an email campaign, I'm speaking as I would normally send a conversation. So a good rule of thumb is maybe write to one person on an email. So imagine you're typing out an email, and actually write that email out in draft to someone as if you're going to write it, then save that, and then go and create that as an automation.
So go ahead.
Yeah, because when you do that, you see, you actually start to think that you're speaking on a one-to-one basis. So it's about creating that one-to-one conversation, but in a one-to-many scenario.
So it's so interesting to me, because I think that some businesses do it really well, and some do it really poorly. And it's like they're trying too hard. They're like that friend at school that's like, hey, can I be your friend? Can I be your friend? And others, I'd say, and you mentioned this to me before offline about other stuff. They also use CCOM, so we'll call it, to also understand the patterns of people's behavior. So I guess there's really two parts to my question here. I'm kind of going all over the place here. One is, how do you use it, not just to send an email that feels personal, because that's one level, but to actually understand what's happening in the chain of the customer experience, like what could be going wrong or right. And then my other, I guess the flip side to that, now this is question 2, is what are the traps or the mistakes we should look out for to not do?
Yeah, so the first part, we're looking at that, creating a feedback loop, right? So many people are running a business right now where they're just going, I'm just going to stick my finger in the air, see which way the wind's blowing, and that's what I'm going to guess is what my customers are saying.
Yes,
rather than
we assume it.
Yeah, we assume, and if you're okay with slight profanity, I say assume makes an ass out of you and me, right? So it's a massive mistake that people make. So these kind of two things tie together, right? What is the mistakes and what do people need to do? So when it comes to, for example, that what went wrong message, we've seen as high as a 40% response rate to that. Now, if you took those responses and put those responses into a Google sheet and said to your customer service team, every time you get a response, put that into a Google sheet, and then what your data team or your marketing team can do, they can go and look at that data. So they can look at that and see the exact wording that people are using of why they didn't buy. So they might say, I didn't have enough time. They might say, I don't get paid until the weekend. Or But then it's about the very particular phrasing that they're using, because if you've ever complained about something where you've rung up customer support to complain about a product being not great or something, maybe like broadband or something like that. I know we were having conversations about broadband earlier. So you ring up to complain and you say, this broadband's not working properly. I'm just so frustrated right now. It's really frustrating me. And they go, yes, I know you're angry tomorrow. I know you're angry.
I was like, I didn't say angry. I said frustrated.
You're like, yeah, I'm not angry. I'm frustrated. Why are you not listening to me?
Yeah.
So it's the same concept when you're doing your marketing is, okay, well, let's take the feedback from the customer. If they say, I didn't have time right now, then let's use, even if you don't have enough time, in a headline, right? But if they're saying, I'm too busy right now, then you put in the headline, even if you're too busy. So it's about using the customer's language patterns back in the marketing to create this feedback loop. And when you start doing that at every stage of the journey, you start to see exactly why people are stopping at that stage. And then here's the great thing about it is you might be thinking, oh, people are not buying because it's too expensive. But the reason everyone isn't buying is because they haven't got the time. So if you can then solve that objection in your abandoned cart emails or in your retargeting ads, then you can focus all your attention on the bit where the things are happening the most, right? So it's like the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle. So 80% of the results come from 20% of the actions. Now, right now, if you're looking at your business, you might be looking in it and going, well, I'm doing this objection, this objection, this objection, when 95% of the people, or maybe 80% of the people, are focusing on saying, I haven't got enough time to implement this thing that you're trying to teach me. So then if we put all the focus there, what's that going to do? It's going to make the results go up 10 times faster, because we're actually getting that feedback loop from the customers and answering what works for our audience in particular.
So I think it's absolutely fascinating, Paul. And I think it's, I'm glad we're having this conversation, because I think that conversational commerce is one of those things that we're all going to be talking about in like 6 months. And you've just figured it out before the rest of us. And I just want to share a quick story with you, kind of, that I was reminded of that I haven't thought about in years, but just a while ago, I was a VP at this innovation and brand strategy firm. And there was an outdoor apparel company that was talking to us about doing some work. And I was the new business lead. And I had 3 conversations with a guy, really did completely understand what he needed and how to deliver for him. Totally got it. And he came back. So I delivered the proposal to him. And he came back to me and said, I don't feel like you were listening to me. This doesn't represent our conversation at all. And like, we had to have a whole nother conversation where he repeated everything he said to me, which in my head, I was like, I know, I get it. Like, that's what I'm saying right here. But I didn't use any of his language, and I didn't mean to. I wasn't being intentional. I just wasn't connecting the dots that, like, in doing it or saying it in a different way, I was making him feel unheard versus simply using his language. I wanted to use my language because this was our processes, our knowledge, our blah, 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 right? Instead of using the customer's language. So we did not win the business, needless to say. But it was really, at the end of the day, the breakdown wasn't our calls. It wasn't the proposal. It was the language I didn't use inside the proposal.
Yeah, and it's just a perfect example of, and when you're working on bigger deals as well, these kind of things are more and more important, because everyone has these standardized processes, right? So we're always about, right, we need to standardize everything. However, if it takes a couple of little tweaks where someone's like, I want someone to handle my whole funnel process.
Yeah.
But then you're saying in your proposal that you're saying we handle all the sales optimization. They're like, no, I don't need that.
The email campaigns. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I don't need email campaigns. I need someone to handle all my funnel process. Yeah. So then you just go, well, that is what we're doing, but like, we don't phrase it that way. So, well, why don't we just rephrase it a little bit in the wording, and you just change it in one deliverable? And then they're like, I get that. That makes sense.
So the other thing I really appreciate about this, Paul, is I think it adds a little bit of quantitative to something that feels qualitative, which is hard to manage, I think. And I would just love to get your feedback on that, because like I look at emails that come in, I look at what customers say, I look at the questions they ask. I log every question in our live chat for the raw. Like I don't sugarcoat it, I don't change it because I want to see the language they use. But what you're really saying is, hey, we can do this, we can speak our customers' language, and we can automate the process for figuring all this stuff out, because that to me is where the exhausting part is. So we talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So when we're looking at what conversational commerce is, and you mentioned before, in a 6 months' time, a lot of people are going to be talking about it. So we've been figuring this out for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Of like what does it actually look like and what does it entail? And we simplified it down to 3 things. So a trifecta. So psychology, technology, and dataology. Those 3 things together tie to what conversational commerce is. And one doesn't work without the other. So you can have the best psychology, right? So you can really understand your customer. You can understand the exact words that they're using. But if every one of those conversations you're having is one-on-one, then you can't scale it. Right. So then you need the right technology. So you need to leverage the technology and automation that's out there. However, how do you know you're making the right decisions? Well, if you don't have the right data points and understand the data and understand, well, if I take that action and use that communication, then how can I actually know that I'm doing the right thing? So did it make a difference when I did that or not? So then you need the right dataology. But you could have the best dataology, right? And understand all the stats. But if your messaging is completely off and you don't understand the psychology of the customer, then that won't work either. So you have to have the 3 working in unison with each other all the time.
So mine's a little bit blown here, so bear with me for a second. I love that, because I think the camp that I fall into is really understanding the customer, but not necessarily doing it in a way that's scalable, right? So I'm like, I will pull out nuggets and get it what they're saying. I will never make the mistake I made all those years ago. But the scaling part feels like the hard part. So I love how you kind of put that together. I'm curious. I just want to back up for a second, because I meant to ask this in the beginning, but we went down a track. How did you get into this? Like, what got you excited about conversational commerce 3 years ago when nobody was yet talking about it? I think at that point we were starting to see, hey, Tamara, in our emails, instead of just hello, customer. But that was really it. So what got you down this path?
Yeah. So I used to be a wedding singer, because like that's the natural.
I love that about you so much. Like I can't even. That's the best thing. Are you going to sing us a song at some point?
Well, maybe not on this microphone, but when I used to be a wedding singer, one of the things I started to learn a little bit more was psychology, because I knew when I was performing, if I could create a rapport with someone, you basically have 7 seconds to create rapport, right? So if you didn't get that audience in that first 7 seconds, then you'd lost them for half the set, and it was, and then you climbing to get them back.
Right, then you're actually catching up.
Exactly. So then I'm like, what hooks can I create? How can I bring people in? How can I create such a rapport so early on that then it brings people together? And then we started to work online, and I had we had something called a Dream Wedding Secrets box. So this was basically a lead generation tool for the wedding singing. It turned into a completely separate business, and we ended up having a community of 3,500 brides. And at that point, I started experimenting with different things. We, for example, set up an automation that sent me a reminder when someone abandoned the car, and I would call every single abandoned car and then write down in a form what they said. So then I could take all the things that they said and create retargeting ads around all their objections. So, and then I started doing that. And then I looked at Messenger as well. And people were like, I don't know who to invite to my wedding. I was like, bet we could automate that. So we created this whole flow map and this bot called Dot the Bot. So she was Dorothy, this old wise woman. And we created this personality behind it and everything. And she'd tell you whether you should invite that person to your wedding or not, based on the outcome.
Yeah.
So we started to do more and more of that. And then when the bridesmaids dress business, we didn't calculate our return policy correctly. And I ended up with a lot higher returns than I thought, not because the product was crap or anything. It's just simply because when you've got 8 bridesmaids and one person doesn't like it, they send them all back. So I ended up, we had $25,000 come back in 2 months. And we were like, oh crap.
Yeah.
So at that point, I needed to pivot. And then I was like, well, what am I good at? What do I enjoy? And then it kind of all tied towards this conversational commerce. And it's just been this learning growth experience. And when we started adding in our core values, one of them being innovation, now we actually empower the team to every single week, they have to come with a customer wow idea. And they're excited to come with that. So everyone comes with a customer wow idea and everyone comes with the sharpening of the saw. So what are you going to do in the next 7 days to grow yourself personally? And then also customer wow, how can we either wow our clients or wow our clients' clients? So what happens is then it goes from just being me and my ideas to being the team ideas and that collaboration.
So I want to ask you a question about that, because I think it's so important. I don't want to move past what you're saying, just as you and it's not about conversational commerce necessarily. It's about you as an entrepreneur and a business owner. What has changed, or what transformation has been allowed once you had your team as accountable and responsible for sharpening the saw and bringing those wow moments versus, to your point, inside you, or you being the one? Because I think as leaders, whether we're in a company or we own our own business like you and me, we're the bottlenecks.
Yes, massively. So yeah, what has changed? I mean, financially, we've certainly grown. Last month we had like 5x growth on the previous month. So we were like, and I think we started in a custom wire and sharpening in the store about 8 to 10 weeks ago. So that says something.
Yeah.
The other thing is, since day one, since hiring that first team member, is I always was focused on personal growth. I was always focused on like, how could we help each member of the team be the best version of themselves? And what's coming to fruition now, like the first person we hired, I think, has been with us 11 months. And in that time, he's now become the head of tech, and he was actually shadowing me on the interviews for hiring the new tech people now, because I want to take him through that journey together of like, so it's about being prepared to take a step back, to let people make mistakes, to figure it out a little bit. And then the only way you can find out what SOPs and what processes you need to put in place in the business is by letting the team handle it and then seeing what breaks. You've got to take the step back first, which is hard at first, but you figure it out.
Yeah, it really is. So I have a question from the audience. Let me just read that real quick so that you can answer that. I think I might be bottlenecking my own team. I'm the leader. I want to start training them to be more about their own personal growth, but I think I've trained them in the other direction. What resources, advice do you have or things to give them that would help with their personal growth?
Yeah, so something that has been absolutely key to everything that we've done. And I was actually interviewing someone today, and we were talking about micro changes, right? So it's not the stuff that you do today. It's a compound effect of that over time. So what I'm about to share is something that we kind of go, that's not really going to that much of a difference, until 12 months down the line, you're like, okay, I can see the difference now. So I do a weekly check-in with each member of our team, right? This is a one-on-one check-in where they can share exactly, like, you know, how do you feel? And first question is always, how do you feel the last 7 days have been? And then the last question of that check-in is, what do you feel in 7 days' time? Who is, for example, tomorrow? What is tomorrow going to be like? And then we phrase that out, right? So we get them to future pace in their own mind who that person is that they're going to become on those weekly check-ins. I also make sure that every team member, they do a daily assessment. So this is their self. They say, what are my top 3 outputs? You know, what do I commit to achieve? Where am I unclear? So then when I'm doing a weekly check-in, I can review what they've said over the last 7 days. And then we also check the happiness rating every single day. And I'm proud to say that our team's happiness rating is a 10 every day.
Oh,
I think we've had maybe 4 or 5 days where it's been a 9. And I can hit that. It's a lot easier to course correct like 1 degree than it is a 90 degree, right? So if you're checking in every week, then you can just bring it back.
Well, I think that's the mistake a lot of big companies make, is these kind of like 6-month, 1-year performance reviews. Like, why would you wait that long? I've never understood that. I have a tactical question for you, and I think I know the answer, but I don't want to assume, because I don't want to be an ass, as you said. Is it 7 days? So I love this idea of like, where have you been? last 7 days, because then you can kind of like, what have you learned? What kind of experiences did you have? And then where are you headed? Where are you going? Is it 7 days just because you're doing it every week? Or is there some newness or recency to it that makes 7 work?
So it actually started with so we have a 90-day onboarding process anyway. And that involves in the first 30 days that every 7 days we do a check-in to make sure we can course correct and make sure they're on track. Now I started to realize it was so valuable that I went, I'm just going to carry on doing it. So we do that every 7 days, and then once a month, that 7-day review is actually a little bit longer, and we do a monthly assessment. So then they fill in things, for example, what do I need to start doing? What do I need to do more of? What do I need to do less of? What do I need to stop doing? And then I look at that, and then I'll become that trusted advisor, that coach for them, rather than. So I always say I hate the word boss. I'm not anyone's boss.
It's negative.
There's no point using the word boss. And we, when you were on our podcast as well, I did your assessment, and you said it was like all about collaboration, right?
Yeah.
So I'm very much of how can I coach our team to be empowered as much as possible to do what they need to do. So when they do the monthly assessment, it's not me going, right, let me do your monthly assessment. It's you do your own self-assessment. You tell me where you think your roadblocks are right now. And if I see any that on there that you haven't mentioned, then I'll bring them up. But the majority of the time, it's just, okay, cool. So what do you need from me? And then the kind of questions, it's amazing what happens in 12 months. Someone goes from asking kind of like, yeah, how do I do this? To like our head of tech, he's coming to me now saying, so how do you feel like you really ingrain culture in the team and stuff like that? So you'll find they develop with you over time. And other things, always make sure they're reading a book. Always. One of the books that we've just started getting everyone to read in our team is Da Vinci and the 40 Answers, which is something that probably no one listening has ever heard of the book. But there's only 40 ways to solve a problem in the world. That's it, 40. So you can get that, I think it's slyasafox.com. You can get the PDF version of that for free. And I'd highly recommend
We'll put that link in the show notes. Yeah. Oh, that's great. Thank you for that. That's hugely valuable. I got another question in, which was actually, I love it when the audience and I are in sync, which often happens. Because was going to be my question as well. So I love it. So the question is, I have to lean in to read it. So if you're watching the video, it's a little awkward. Why measure happiness versus something like productivity? I love the idea of happiness. I just haven't heard it before in that way. So that's interesting. So I love that question because I love the idea of happiness, because I think when you rate yourself as happy, you're being productive and you're being innovative. Because I think productive is a false, I don't know. I think it's a false thing of success. I don't think just because you get a lot done doesn't mean you do it well. Doesn't mean you do it right. It doesn't mean you're happy. Like it doesn't mean anything in my book. But I'd love to hear and the audience would love to hear your opinion about why measure that.
So for the exact reason that you just said, is happiness precedes effectiveness or productivity. And just a note on productivity, there's two things there, right? So you've got effectiveness and you've got efficiency. A lot of people focused on efficiencies. So imagine you've got a well over one side, you've got a well over the other side. And I say, right, I've got this. You need to take the water from that well and you need to put it into that well. Now, what you could do is you could get 2 buckets. You could do it really fast. You get two buckets, right? You're being really efficient. And then the buckets have both got holes in the bottom. So you get to the other side, you pour a little bit of water out, there's hardly anything coming. Now, what would be the most effective way? Well, I'm not going to use buckets, right? I'm going to get one of those industrial hose pipe things that can soak up all the water in one go. And then I'm going to dump it in the other one. That's the most effective way to do it. So one of our core values is about being effectiveness. Right? Not efficiency, because efficiency is a load of crap.
Yeah, I got to write a note down. That was so good. Yeah.
And then the other one is excellence, right? So another one is if you can be effective, but if you're not doing it with excellence, then great, you got the job done, you got it done quick. But if you're not doing it to a high standard, then it's not working. So, but efficiency is a false assumption, really, of like, oh, I need to be efficient as possible. No, because then you're just being busy. Like you could work 100 hours a week and be really efficient, but get nothing done.
Right.
So
and not move the needle forward at all.
No, exactly. So, this is podcast has took a slightly different turn. However, these kind of principles are so important for growth of any businesses. These are the core pieces that have actually helped us grow significantly.
But I think, yes, we went from conversational commerce to leadership, right? Really. But here's what I'd say, Paul. I'd say that this is part of the reason why you are on the forefront of this new field and have grown in this field and are growing the field overall. It's because of this other focus on growth, development, like having an understanding of those things makes you really good at the other thing. And I don't think you can have one without the other. So at least I haven't met anyone yet. I don't know if you have, who's like brilliant in their field, but doesn't give a shit about all the stuff we were just talking about.
Yeah. And I'd agree with that. And it's also I think Dan Sullivan said, what is it? Dan Sullivan or someone else said 1 + 1 = 11. I know Tom Matson from Strategic Alliance talks about that, right? So I go, wait a minute. So if 1 + 1 = 11, what does like 1 + 5 equal? Right. It's like, well, that's big growth there. So then when you start going and building this collaboration around the innovation, so when everyone's trying in that almost one-upmanship on the other one, and here's what we just added recently, because we realized some of the customer wow or some of the sharpening of the saw maybe wasn't getting done all the time, because we were kind of going, did it get done? And they're like, no, or yes, or whatnot, but it wasn't being measured. So what you measure gets managed, goes back to the dataology piece of the trifecta. So what we started doing the last couple of weeks, we've now created a Google Sheet that we bring that up, share the screen every Friday. So it's like, this is what you said you were going to achieve. And then it'll work out a percentage of completion rate. So every single person on the team then is like, I want to have the highest completion rate on the team. So you create that accountability within the team, but also that gamified experience where everyone wants to be the best.
Yeah. I think gamifying has made a huge, the research has shown it really helps embed habits in a way that you don't without it. And so whether that's a leaderboard or other badges or like whatever it is, I think that's part of the reason. Well, I think it's the main reason Peloton has been so successful. It's not the bike. Yeah. I have one. The bike is great, but there's other great bikes. So that's not it. It's the badges and the leaderboard. And one of the things I think they figured out, and I haven't worked with Peloton, but call me, I'd love to understand this better, is those badges come in the moments where I would probably drop off otherwise. So like the 50 ride, the 100 ride, and days in a row. And like, they really understand the psychology and then leveraging technology.
So let's take that that's a great example. So if you look at the three things on the trifecta, so how did they figure out where those drop-off points were? Dataology, right? They looked at the customer journey and looks like, why are people dropping off in the process? So then they went, okay, well, what's the psychological reasons that's happening? So I imagine they did a lot of feedback, customer surveys, like user testing and all that to find out the psychology of why that's happening and what they could do to fix it. And then they were like, well, we need to leverage this because we can't go ringing up every single person and go, hey, I noticed you dropped off this week. So then they go, well, what can we do to leverage the technology to make that forward? So when you actually take that step back and open away from that tunnel vision, and actually if you look at any business that's really grown massively, you'll notice those three things that was done really well, like Airbnb, same kind of thing. What did they do? Well, they understood the psychology of why people wanted to go away and why people would actually go and rent out their own house. And then they tapped into that psychology. Now, then they understood the data of there was this massive untapped market.
Right.
They looked at the numbers and they looked at a lot of people like, I can't afford to pay for a hotel. And there's other people like, I've got this spare room.
I want to make my own coffee in the morning. Like something simple like that.
So they did all the data beforehand to understand what was going on. And I imagine, they leveraged data massively. And then also the technology. So then they created a platform and a technology that leveraged other people's resources to grow. And it's the same thing with a lot of the others, like Uber and Netflix massively. I think they do something like 256,000 split tests every month. Netflix.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
Oh my gosh. They probably split test on me then like 10 times a day. It's horrible to admit, but it's true. So, okay. So I have a couple questions for you on this. where was I headed? I just totally lost my train of thought because I was so into what you were saying and trying to hold the question at the same time. I hate it when that happens. Darn it. Oh yeah. Okay. So here's what I wanted to share with you, and this leads to a question. So I was in market research for a really long time before kind of doing my own thing and shifting our focus from giving people product ideas, new products, showing them how to be innovators, and because they have the ideas inside of them. They don't need me to go behind a black curtain. What they need is to just a way to unearth it. So in that market research time, I often struggled or got frustrated because clients would say, I need something quantitative, so we're not doing open-ended, or the open-ended question would be an afterthought to placate people, but not a big part of it. They really wanted to look at the numbers. And one of the scoring methods that drives me nuts is called the NFP score. And it's like everything, is that right? NFP is like
MPS?
No, I think it's NFP. It's Net Promoter Score, NPS.
Yeah, Net Promoter Score.
Yeah, that's what I meant. So I had my acronym wrong. So it drives me a little bit nuts because clients will get really focused on like where the number is, but not the why behind it. And there's so much richness in the why, but we put all our quantitative efforts into the what. So like the data. So, and I'll tell you, recently I did a survey with our online course attendees, and I did all open-ended questions, and I got a little bit, there was some scale, but mostly open. Like, it's mostly like, tell me why you gave it that score kind of thing. And the richness in those questions about what they loved, which were things I would have never guessed, by the way. Like, it would have never occurred to me that where they got value to me was an afterthought. And that's where they got value. Like, that was the second level of what I was trying to provide. And they were like, we love this. We don't really need this. And I was like, well, I'm putting all this effort over here and they don't even want it. Right. So I'm going to take that away and save myself some time, and dial this up. But why do we get so stuck in that? And that fear of like, if I ask why, I don't have a process for dealing with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So when it comes to that, I think one of the key things is that people just want to say something's done, right? So when it comes to market research, we've done customer surveys,
right? And our average number is X. We know.
Yeah. So we know, and a lot of the clients that we work with in more of the like online course space and stuff as well. Like when was the last time we did customer survey? 2 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So we look at, first thing we're going to do is find out why people bought, why people didn't buy. And when we're looking at quantitative data, then you can also go, well, what if we pulled the keywords? What if we did an analysis and saw which words came up the most? So very quickly, you literally drop them in a Google sheet and pull out a word cloud, right? So just go, which one's popping up? If the word time is coming up over and over again, or the word money is coming up over and over again, and you go, maybe that's where we should put a little bit more focus, and then you dig deeper into the individual answers.
So the other thing I love, Paul, about conversational commerce and what you're saying here is I also think to the flip side, and I know I've been guilty of this, we get stuck on one person's feedback and we make a ton of changes based on one person and like a 30-minute conversation we have with them where they told us what they'd rather have. And we're like, oh, okay, yeah, let's change that, versus actually seeing the pattern. Yeah.
And data, is massively important. So for example, where we've got a client as well that is running a challenge at the moment, and we noticed when they got to day 4 of the challenge, if they got that far, then the lifetime customer value went through the roof. So it was like, okay, well, then what can we do to get them to day number 4?
Yeah.
So now at the moment, we're building out this concierge process. So we've got this more like one-on-one conversation, but it's also 80% human-like. So once that's fully built out, it means it's going to reduce the drop-off significantly at every stage of the customer journey, because we know if someone consumes the whole thing, great. There's going to be a very high percentage that buy. But so a lot of people go, why am I not getting enough sales? And this goes back to, if you ever read the book, The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham. Phenomenal book.
I'll put that link in the show notes too. I love that book.
Yeah, definitely. I read it about every quarter, every 6 months. And one of the things he talks about is thinking time. And a lot of people think about the symptoms, not the cause. So if you're not getting enough sales right now, break it down and go, well, when do I get sales? Ask yourself a different question. When do I get sales? Well, I get sales when someone consumes all my content. Okay. So how many people are consuming all your content? Oh, 20% are. Okay. So what would happen if you change that to 50%? Well, this would happen. Okay, great. What would I need to do to make that happen? Well, I've noticed that when I do this, then the engagement goes up. Okay, how could you do that at every stage of customer journey? So then you break it down and break it down and break it down until you get to a stage where you go, right, that is a lead indicator that I can actually create something on now. So I'm going to talk about lead and lag, right? Lag indicators are all the stuff that you're seeing after the fact.
Like, which we accidentally think are lead often.
Yes. Yeah. Sales are not lead indicators. Like sales are lag indicators, like average client MRR, so monthly recurring revenue, those kind of things are all lag indicators. But lead indicators might be, how many booked appointments did you get this week? Right. And if you went even more lead indicators, how many people, like what click-through rate should I be getting to get people to book an appointment, and so on and so forth.
So what I love about business today, because I've been in this, Paul, a lot longer than you, is not to get our ages, but I love that about you. I think you're so brilliant and young at the same time, which I was like, man, I wish I'd been on the forefront of something when I was young. I think I was just like, I was building my career and doing my thing, but I don't know that I had the foresight that you have. So I think it's really impressive. And what I think is really cool about business today is you can track just about everything and see those stage gates all over the place. And to me, that is really exciting. I love patterns. So like if you look at all my sales, I don't have them here. I should have pulled them up, but it's like, number of inquiries. And then it goes from inquiries to like proposals, from proposals to like second conversations to like final, and I know exactly the percentage at every turn. I know what I need to get over here in the lead to get over here in the lag. And what's cool, and this is kind of what you're saying, is when I started to focus on how do I up each of these just a few percents, it made a massive difference to the size of the business down the road. It was like, I think my focus was 2% at each stage gate, which was like 4 of them. And that 2% over time added to a lot of money.
And here's where this is where numbers are very interesting as well. That if you actually look at the front end and focus on, well, what if I put all my effort on one stage? What difference would that make? So a lot of people will go, I need to improve my closing ratio, right? So let's say you get 10 people on a call, you close 2 of them. If you looked at your opt-in rate and went, what if I could take my opt-in rate from 25% to 50% on a lead magnet or thing that I've got that brings them into my world? Wait a minute. So that would give me double the amount of leads. Yeah. So that means when it tracks out the other side, I would actually be making double the amount of sales. But if I double my conversion rate on the calls, I wouldn't make as much because there's not as many people getting to that stage of the journey. Right. So we're now looking, we've got a client at the moment. I think we're trying 4 different front ends at the same time. So we've got like you can have a preview of the thing. You can have there's a lead magnet on the front. There's a straight to the order page. So there's different ways of bringing people in. And then we go, well, from a sales velocity perspective, without getting too technical, but like how much then is a customer worth who goes through that after 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days? Because it's not about how much a customer's worth today. It's about what is the lifetime value of that customer, because then over time, you know exactly how much you can spend to acquire that customer and make in the long run. And that's when you apply the conversational commerce principles, like having that back and forth conversation to improve each one of those metrics.
So what I hope that all people who are listening now and watching now, but will eventually be listening and watching, is, to me, this is really powerful stuff, not just if you have a tech online based business like I do, but also if you sell manufacturing equipment, if you're in the hospitality world, if you are in the banking world, or any myriad of any industry, really, these principles are not only do they apply, but Paul, I'd say, when you say they're essential moving forward. Yeah, they're universal, but I think they're essential for business because I was just interviewing a colleague of mine who's a master in the customer experience world. Shep is his name. And that podcast will come out probably a little bit after yours, but we were talking about how important that experience is and that constant follow-up and that constant communication. I think the layer that you're bringing is how to do it in a way that's really effective. So it's one thing to follow up, but whether you're in the B2B world or B2C or small business or big business, this applies. And frankly, if you don't give it to me, I'm going somewhere else because somebody else will treat me like a human.
Yeah. And just to give an example on that as well, and just to show you that principle is universal, right? Where hence why I haven't got my lovely background and everything is when the process of moving house. So I'm in another house at the moment. Now, when we're looking for houses, one of the big things that is doing my treeing right now is the fact that every time I have to ring someone up and say, yeah, I'd like to go and view the house. Why can't we go on that site from a conversational perspective? Or one of two things could happen, right? Number one, you fill in a form because they all want the same information every single time.
Yeah.
What's your position? How much is it? How much
when
is your budget?
When are you looking to buy?
When are you looking to buy? So why can't I just engage either with a conversational chatbot or just literally fill in a form and then select the availability from that person whose house it is and just go, great, booked. Let's just get rid of the estate agent out the middle, and you could halve your staff for your estate agency overnight. Yeah,
I am 100% with you. And I can tell you someone who's been looking for the last year in a market. I'm in Denver, and the Denver market is like absurd. So the house goes on Zillow, and 2 minutes later, it's got 20 offers that are $200,000 over asking. Like that's what's happening over here. But I don't understand why I need to bother waiting. Like I use Calendly. And when people email me and say, I'm interested in sponsoring your podcast, or I want to talk to you about this, or I have a question, right? They can use the Calendly link and set something up. It's automated in the email back so that there's no wait time, right? Like, why is this so hard for other? I guess it's a different question, which is why I think the answer is actually apparent to most of us, and including you, which is there are industries of people that are fighting it because their jobs are going to become irrelevant. And that is scary for people, but it's a better experience for you and me to have what we need.
Yeah. Yeah. And their jobs may become irrelevant, but there may be new jobs that are then created because of it. For example, like customer experience manager. Yeah. Right. How many businesses have someone whose job is to focus on how can we improve the customer experience this week?
Yeah. Well, and I'll give you a different realtor example. My realtor who sold my last house, she and I meet every now and again because she's in the neighborhood. We have kids in the same school, but she started a blog about interesting things happening around the neighborhoods that she sells in. And so she's constantly in front of us with different things that we find very relevant. And at some time, right, I will move again. And when I do, I'll call her because she provided value to me in a different way, not in that way. Right. I don't want to call her to set an appointment. I want to go find a house. And then I want to tell her, I want to make an offer on this house. So it's like, so I'm totally with you. Yeah. I could go, you could tell I could get a little heated talking about there. It's the same with doctor's offices. Why do I have to wait for someone to pick up the phone to make an appointment? Like, why can't I just go onto an app and do it? I don't understand.
Exactly. I mean, like if there's anyone watching at the moment, if you want to put in a chat, put the most random industry you can in the chat, or if they can't quick enough, then tomorrow you just come up with a random company, and I'll show you how you can apply conversational commerce.
Okay, furniture sales.
Furniture sales, cool. Okay, I'll put myself on the spot here anyway. So first things first. Now, what do people want when they go in a furniture shop? They want something that firstly matches the room that they've already got. They want to know it fits. They want to know it fits the style. So, and Amazon's already started getting ahead of this, right? With virtual viewings in the room. So you can basically cut it up and push it in the room. So you can see how it would fit, how big it would be, and so on and so forth. So that's one of the things. But what if you then took a VR experience, right? For example, so if someone's going to come into your physical brick and mortar store, you come in with a picture of your living room, and they give you this VR headset to put on, and you can sift through all the different sofas. So instead of just looking on your phone in augmented reality, you get to see your house in VR and actually look around the room. And then from there, like at some point, maybe you go into that store and there's no salespeople. You go into the store, you put on a headset, you upload your photo, and then from there, then it goes, what would you like to do next? And voice activated, you go, yes, I like that. Do you like this? Do you like that? You know, when you go to the opticians, because obviously you've got classes as well, and they go, is it 1 or 2? Is it 3 or 4? Same thing when you go to the furniture store. Which one do you like more, this one or this? Then what if you go out of the store? Well, at that point, because you've gone through that experience, they've got your details. So then maybe then they've got a customer support center that then calls you up. Hey, notice you went in the store earlier today. I saw that this looked like you chose this as a perfect fit sofa. Just wondered, have you got any questions about it or anything? You see how we took a brick and mortar store, and I did this completely conversational experience. It's better than anyone else's.
So, what I really appreciate about what you're saying is it actually reminds me of the last time I went to the mall. And if you look at the stores that are busy in the mall, they're really not stores, they're experiential boxes. So like Tesla, Apple, Peloton, right? And those are all the big guys we always talk about being innovative. But I would look at it for listeners and watchers, I would look at it from a different angle. They're providing things for you to touch and feel and experience, kind of like what Paul's saying here. But they're not stores in the traditional sense of carrying items that you go through, right? And all the other stores, Paul, they're dead. They're dead all the time. I don't know how they're keeping any of their employees because there's never anyone shopping.
So, do you have HMV over there or not?
Do we have H&M? No.
HMV. So HMV is a British record store, right? So they sold CDs for years. They were like known as the main CD company, and then they pretty much went bankrupt. And then somehow they started up again. Someone bought them out, but they didn't change anything. They started back up and did exactly the same thing and went, oh, it'll be different this time. It's like, no, because you didn't create an experience. But if they turn that into, for example, a coffee bar where you could go and listen to your favorite music, and then you could choose those different music on Spotify, and then it said, would you like to get the vinyl version? We have that in stock. And then you press that button, and then maybe even you've got things like vinyl coasters and stuff like that. And you could take away more of a memorabilia souvenirs from your experience rather than just something tangible that you could get on Spotify.
Yeah, well, yes, let's go open that business. So let's start there, Paul. I think we have our next business. But the other thing I want us all to really be, I just want to pause for a second and double down on this because I think it's so important. Conversational commerce doesn't take away our ability to be relevant and to do our jobs. It's not taking our jobs. So I think with automation, people look and go, well, all this is like Tamara and Paul, if all this is happening, like, where do I fit in? What I hear you saying that's so powerful is what it really means is there are new jobs created because there's new things that need to be done. And I, as the individual innovator, I have an incredible ability to sharpen my saw, like you were saying earlier, in a way that understands and delivers on these things. And regardless of what job title you're in, I'd say understanding conversational commerce and leveraging that principle will help you be stronger in whatever you do.
Yeah, and that is key to success, is to constantly be innovating. I think if you listen to this right now, and maybe most people who are listening to it would have their own business, but if you're in a low skilled job right now, right, factory worker, something like that, I really feel for you, because in the next 20 years there will be no job. So
so you there will be this stuff.
You either got to learn it, or you're going to end up on unemployment, because these skilled workers, what's becoming more and more relevant now is creativity, right? Creativity, and because that's what we can't automate yet, is that innovation of, we've got elements of machine learning, but like the stuff that we just spoke about, a computer couldn't. Maybe it could spit out. I haven't found one yet, but like the stuff that we just came. Well, what about this? What about this? What about this?
Yeah.
Then you've got the creativity at the same time as using the tech to leverage that to go, well, these are for example, the 40 answers that I was talking about earlier. I imagine probably another 10, 20 years to be able to push that through an algorithm, and it'll give you 40 different ways that you you could improve your conversion rates through those 40 answers. For example, like you mentioned, you have 3 calls in your pipeline. The first thing I'd say to test is, how could you do that in one? Would it improve the conversion rates? What would you have to do differently before the call to pre-frame them enough by the time they get on the call? That is a decision call, and that's it. So when sometimes shortening the sales cycle is great, sometimes elongating it is better as well. So applying these different principles.
Oh, I love that. I'm all about that, the flip in perspective. And I love that of kind of pulling it apart in different ways versus pulling it apart in one way, which is what I had actually done, interestingly, in the beginning. And it worked in terms of revenue, but that is a fascinating way to think about it. Maybe longer is better. Maybe more no's is better. I don't know. It's interesting to like play with it. And I'll tell you, you made the comment about creativity being so important. And I think that it's not, I know, because I follow some of your principles, is that the reason we've been so successful, particularly through the pandemic and just recently, is because you can't replace innovation. So if you as a human want to be relevant moving forward, you got to figure out how to be more innovative in your work and in your life. That's just the reality of where we are. And I think it's a really exciting reality. Other people's a little bit scary, but I think once we start to play with that skill that we have, because we all have it, it's really exciting. So I know, Paul, we have to close out, but I want to say, first of all, so Paul, your everyday innovator style, and I love when I get to do spotlights like this, is a collaborative inquisitive, which I think we all probably heard a lot, because that collaborative, you innovate by pulling disparate people and experiences together to create whole innovation. And then inquisitive is about kind of digging deep and uncovering the layers and pulling back the onion and asking why and if, and like, it's kind of deep innovation. And I kind of hear it in both of the things you're talking about. You really leverage that for success, which I think is really cool, because it's a powerful combination. It's 360, but you're also going deep to understand what's an assumption and sitting on the surface and what's not. And a lot of us miss that part of the equation.
Yeah. And whatever your innovation style is, don't fight it. When I was my early 20s, I'd say the reason I didn't get to where I wanted to be, and you're never fully where you want to be, but like I'm in a good place. The reason I didn't get there sooner is because I was worried about what other people think of me.
And God, for real.
There's a quote from I know Jay Shetty said he heard a monk say this. I can't remember the exact person who did it, but this is like stuck with me so much. It's not what I think I am. It's not what you think I am. It's what I think you think I am. It's just like that blows people's minds for a little while, and then it sinks in as like, so it's all about what you think other people are thinking of you.
Which is also, by the way, exhausting. I don't know why. I spent my 20s definitely caring, and we don't have the time now for me to go into my red 3-piece Ann Taylor suit story with matching shoes and scrunchie. But it was the power suit of the 90s, right? That's why I wore it. And it's because I cared what other people thought. In fact, when I first started keynote speaking, I always be like super uber, like jacket, right? Matching, but that's not me. Like, it's not me. But it took me a long time to get out of that place and to realize, like, F it. Like, I'm just going to be me. And frankly, it's been better, not just for me, but for the business and for everything since then. That's the irony of it, isn't it? It's like, once you let go of that, it actually gets better.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, I think that's a really good takeaway for people to take away is, number one is look at that trifecta in your business right now. So what are you doing in terms of understanding the psychology of your customer? What are you doing to leverage automation and leverage technology? And then how do you know that that's working? So are you tracking the numbers at every stage of the customer journey? And at the same time, forget what anyone else thinks about you. It's about what you think about yourself. So
I love it.
It's about yourself when you buy yourself.
I feel like that's the wisdom bomb at the end. So I'm not going to ask my advice question, because I feel like that was it right there. What I do want to ask you is, because you have a great podcast and you have a business. So where can people go to listen to your podcast, start to listen to you a little bit more, and engage with you if they're ready?
Yeah, so you can go to amplify7figures.com, the number 7. And you can listen to that podcast on there as well. Tomorrow's episode will be dropping soon. I won't say a date because of like the times are matching up. But it'll be dropping soon. And also, if you want to find out more about what we do here at Amplify CCOM, you can go to www.amplifyccom.com, and we've just added a new little nice chat widget where you can do your Amplify to 7-figure audit. So we've basically gone, this is all the things that we look at when we go into business to see where all the holes are. And you can go through the whole chat list of that to see what score you get.
That's super
And then
cool.
obviously it follows up in a conversational way.
Obviously. And in fact, here's what I'd say to you guys. Hey, even if you're not ready, go check it out. I think you'll learn something by just engaging with Paul. I know I have. In fact, we had a whole separate conversation between podcasts that I learned a ton from. So Paul, you're full of wisdom. Thank you for joining.
Much appreciated, Tamara. You are also the same, and your innovation style stuff has just been great as well, but very empowering.
Thank you.